We have made it to number 10 in the Teams in 10 Days series. A massive thank you to you if you've watched all episodes thus far. Thank you for your support and commitment. Today we're covering off implementing change. If you're not using this software in your business but you want to, I want to cover off in this episode how do we actually start using Teams in our businesses. Implementing any change in a business is hard at the best of times, especially when we're talking about software. There are so many pieces of software out there, and if we don't answer the question why, Teams is just going to be another tool to use. Why should I use this tool? What's in it for me? How am I going to use this tool better to do my job, make my life easier, or do my job more productively? If we can't answer questions like that when we're implementing change, the change will peter out and potentially fail. So tip number one is starting with why, getting clear on what the problem is and why we need to change. So sure, we can just tell everybody, stop emailing and post messages in this new marketing team that I created. But I feel like this approach will be short-lived and won't get as much buy-in as if you did it in an alternative way. People need to know why they need to change. And of course, most people that have been working for a while would have a perfectly structured, well-organized email filing system they don't want to give up anytime soon. So this might be sitting down with your team and figuring out really what it is they need day to day. Are your team constantly emailing files back and forth, and having one source of truth, collaboration on documents could really improve things around the office? Or are you looking for a new way to work with your clients? Having a single portal where you can invite customers in to communicate, collaborate, drop files, because Teams can do that as well. Tip number two is finding a Teams champion. I find a person who can take this on internally and help spread it around the team. They help us to structure the teams correctly. They help us to identify which department is most ready to use Teams, and then they'll help to train and help others to adopt the software in their daily lives. All of that information is so critical when it comes to figuring out how, as a business, we're going to use Teams. Having this person identified and owning it on your team means this project will have a lot more legs and traction than it otherwise would. The last thing in this video I wanted to say was just get started. Sometimes looking at Teams, some of the examples I've shown may be overwhelming to some people, but reality is Teams grows over time. If I was to say one thing, just use it for chat. Just start chatting. Instead of sending that email, hey, let's go to lunch, just dive into Teams and say, hey, let's go to lunch. It'll start the conversation between the business, and like a spark turns into flames, it will begin to grow. Eventually, you'll ask yourself, hey, what's the first channel we should create? What's the next one? Should we use it for this project? Or this one department feels like they could use it on this next thing they're doing. It will grow and grow over time. If you ask yourself those simple questions, what's the problem we're going to solve? Who's our team's owner? Who can own this internally? And then thirdly, what's that simple thing we can do to get started? I think you're going to enjoy using Teams in your business. That wraps up the Teams in 10 Days video series, so thank you so much for being a part of it. I've really enjoyed making this series. You can always go back through all the other videos in this series so far. They'll be there as a resource for you to hopefully inspire you to do more in Teams. So that is it from me. Once again, thank you, and we'll see you in the next series.